What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and a bit of an update on The Last of Us 2. It looks like, well, we've got some information around pre-orders and if they were affected at all by the story leak. Now, what was it, like a week ago or something like that? Roughly, we saw Amazon automatically, or I'm sorry, make available brand new quantities in the premium edition of The Last of Us 2. It seemed unlikely to me that that wasn't from people returning product, but Sony has come out to do a little bit of spin apparently, and they have said, nope, everything's totally fine, didn't cost us anything. Do you believe that? I mean, I don't know if I believe that. The Last of Us Part 2 PlayStation boss says pre-orders weren't hurt by spoiler leak. I just, that feels like a lie to me. I saw an absolute ton of people posting images that, of their canceled pre-orders. Now, I have said from Jump Street that I didn't think it would strongly affect sales, but so you have people posting that they were canceling their pre-orders. You had Amazon suddenly have new stock available in the Last of Us 2 Premium Edition. Something doesn't really add up to me. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan has revealed that demand for The Last of Us 2 remains strong, despite major story spoilers circulating online. Specifically, the spoilers appear to have had a limited effect on pre-orders for the game. Now, I could see how this works out. Really, two ways. One, if you pre-ordered the game, you're already like a mega fan. You're already pot committed. Most people probably forgot that they even pre-ordered it. So it would take a lot for them to cancel that. Two, maybe all the extra controversy turned into additional sales for the company. Also entirely possible. Maybe they, all the extra press for The Last of Us 2 got new market in, and that offset the amount of cancels. In an interview with CNET, Ryan acknowledged the unfortunate situation, but mentioned that Sony has tallied more pre-orders in Europe for The Last of Us Part 2 than it did for Marvel's Spider-Man at the same point before its launch. That's not necessarily fair to say. Spider-Man didn't have huge existing demand, did it? Not like The Last of Us Part 2. Ryan went on to say that he hopes The Last of Us Part 2 will be a defining game for a generation, and added that while they haven't had any plans to reveal for bringing the game to PS5, The Last of Us Part 2 will run on the new console without issues. Back in late April, major spoilers for the game circulated online, ruining some major moments in the game. What do you think about this? It seems like really, really odd to me that it didn't have any effect on sales. It seems unlikely to me, unless like it was three people that maybe just kept posting the same image. It's difficult to know. They also talked about the TV show from games to TV. The Last of Us expands the saga into new territory. Neil Druckmann, the creative director behind The Last of Us 2, previews the next video game and addresses the planned TV series. The saga that takes place in the aftermath of everything going on in the video game isn't exactly what you would call escapism, but not for, if not for the other coof, can squash high demand for The Last of Us 2, the sequel to one of the best-selling video games of 2013, even though it did delay release a little bit. It speaks to the lasting impact of this post-apocalyptic epic from Neil Druckmann, creative director of the game developer Naughty Dog. Since writing and co-directing for the first installment, he's been taking the story in new directions. Now, selling a reported 1.3 million copies in the first week of release, The Last of Us established a new world ravaged by parasitic fungal plague that transforms the infected into vicious zombified mutant monsters. Joel, voiced by Troy Baker, a man who lost his daughter early in the outbreak, lives in one. Yes, we know the game. Now, interesting what's going on with the show, because a lot of people assume it's going to be very HBO, very woke, but maybe not. Probably, though. Druckmann grew more excited about exploring the depths of Ellie's psyche in the second game, and he's developed Left Behind Oh, and as he developed Left Behind and the Other American Dreams into graphic novels, the later created the writer illustrated Faith Aaron Hicks. He likened Breaking Bad and how showrunner Vince Gilligan spent years watching Bryan Cranston's Walter White slowly shift and explore. Interestingly, of the TV show, it's going to be interesting, what you see on TV. With American Dreams, Druckmann found something intriguing about the passing of a graphic novel, how you're trying to get a cliffhanger on every page turn, and how he structured the story. Likewise with TV, he says, you have to figure out how it communicates ideas or selling stories. And removing the interactivity of the story, how can you make it unique for another medium? It's an interesting challenge, and I think there's a lot to learn from it. More specifically with this show, I got to meet Craig Mazin. I'm a huge fan of Chernobyl, and find someone who's equally a fan of the work we've done. Craig had ideas about how we could adapt the show. It became intriguing to work with another creative who I adore. It just becomes a no-brainer, and to do it under the umbrella of HBO and all their content. I don't know. Does the world need another another zombie TV show? With viewership of Walking Dead waning, it seems like the world's moved on from the zombie thriller. A good zombie movie, if done right, is still pretty interesting. So I could see The Last of Us doing okay, but, it being on HBO, will it take over for The Watchmen? How will it do? It's difficult. In a sense, he's getting preliminary experience in this medium with Part 2. Johnson and Baker returned to both voice their characters in the new game and recorded motion capture performances. Now that the photoreal technology is more advanced than when Naughty Dog made it in the first game, Druckmann says he can better capture the nuances of the actors, which means we don't have to rely on dialogue as much. So much can be said with a look or a squint in the way that pretty new for video games, even for us. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of pans out for the HBO series. It's an experiment in storytelling, he says. We can make you feel hate, guilt, shame, which are interesting feelings and are totally unique to video games, Druckmann said. You can't quite do it in films and TV, and yet, really, I think you can. And the challenge now faces HBO announced in May that Druckmann will collaborate with Chernobyl director Craig Mazin on a television series adaptation of The Last of Us, a film version of what was once in the works. A film version was once in the works, but plans fell through. Now the hoped-for show to adapt to events of the first game and successful of the second game. In a lot of ways, there are shows that have paved the way. I think The Witcher on Netflix has probably been a pretty good success. It offers a pretty good blueprint, I think, of what a good video game television show looks like. And there were questions if The Witcher would really succeed because, did the world really need another Game of Thrones style show? But The Witcher did well. Henry Cavill and everyone else in the show seemed to do pretty good. They had kind of equal parts its own kind of thing and an equal parts call back to the original text. So outside of the scrotal armor, the show was pretty good. We see here also The Last of Us 2 Part 2 co-writer. There are no heroes or villains in the game. Interesting. Ellie must fight against other people who are trying, like she is hidden. It's interesting. The game is entirely about making hard choices and the consequences of those hard choices, Gross told me in our video interview. Even in the gameplay, we want you to feel the micro hard choices that characters have to go through so that you are going to confront this woman with the dog or you're going to stealth around it and take that risk. We want you to feel them in every decision you make. So guilt is very much a consequence, a repercussion of choice. And not always, so often, but often, it can be also a sign of learning and growing. See, this has kind of been a reoccurring, how do you say, theme of The Last of Us Part 2, in that they want you to not have a good time. They have the whole kind of famous quote, we don't talk about fun here. We don't use the word fun. I think it's too, we're too close to the release to really speculate. We've seen all the stuff go on through the DMCA. We've seen everything go, they're still out there marketing. To a certain point, I think people are just going to buy the game and play the game anyway. I still think it will sell many millions of copies and be a great success. But it'll be interesting to see how everything pans out. Maybe I'll be wrong. no matter what happens, I think you'll hear, the corporate, the suits over at Sony say that it was a wild success, and we'll never really know what it could have been if not for these leaks, because that's an alternate reality. We can only speculate. We can only speculate, did it lead to more sales? Did it really have a bunch of people cancel? I don't know. To me, it seems like Sony may be full of it here, but I don't know what else you'd expect. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.